We are live. What's going on, guys? Back at it again. The three amigos, the big kubasas, whatever you want to call them, the three blind mice. I don't know. How's it going, guys?
Great. It's always a nice day in Arizona, especially when it's under 100 degrees.
Oh, were we kidding ourselves? It's a nice day in Arizona because it's under 80 degrees. Forget this 100-degree nonsense.
I like it
Uh,
hot, bro.
this will be my last summer in the sweat box. Thank God. I will be going back to my hometown. I'll be there from May 1st to October 1st. But anyway, I'll be splitting it up. So glad to be a snowbird for the first time in my life. But been down here for 26 straight years, and you can have it on the summer times. No, thank you. Anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely. What an interesting sideways week. Market's a little green tonight, a little green, but well, not too bad, not too good. We're not getting that close above 110,580 that we need on the daily time frame for Bitcoin, but we are right at resistance again. Until we reclaim that, we are still not back in our uptrend. So I think we will reclaim it eventually, but I don't know. What do you guys think? I think that if we continue to bounce off 107,000, that buy wall is eventually going to cave and we're going to go lower unless we move to the upside. So,
Max, you want to go first?
No, it seems like you want to go for it.
Well, I think we got so many catalysts coming. Like we have to go back up. When that is, I can't say, but there's so many things that the Clarity Act, which Otaku mentioned last time. Shout out to you, Otaku, when we were doing the blockchain buzz. You guys definitely need to check that out. Um, so Clarity Act. Also, XRP ETFs, more crypto ETFs. Like we have to go up, and I know like somebody, I think it was Jay Claver, was saying that this government shutdown might lead to XRP kind of exploding. I could see possibly like some UBI coming out, and could that make crypto explode more? Maybe.
CPI comes out tomorrow. What do you think? Bullish, bearish?
I don't know. It's hard to know with Mr. Powell, but you know, we'll see what happens. In regard to what you just said, um, I think honestly there will be at least one more big flash crash. I know some people don't like that. For me, I just capitalize on it. I just look at like, great, everything's on sale. What did I not hit my goals on? Last time around, I even sent a text to Rue. I was like, geez, I spent 3 hours looking at my watch list, then comparing to the top 100 all the way up to 500 and my own portfolio, saying what is on sale the most. And at that time, it was Swift Coin. It went to 0.006. So roughly 600 some odd dollars. You buy another 100,000 of the coins. Filecoin, oh my gosh, that was the one that hardly anybody's talking about. Crashed all
Mm-hmm.
the way down to like 65 cents. So if anything, in one day's time, you could have done at least bare minimum of a 2 to 3x in a day, right? Um, and of course, I mean, I hold a lot of Filecoin, believe it long term, but so I bought more Filecoin. Like, all time lows for Filecoin. Are you kidding me? They're the most original one out there when it comes to file storage. Like, they smoked the competition. I don't know why enough people aren't talking about it. It is what it is. But so those stood out, and of course, hit my quant goals a while back. So, um, yeah, I mean, if there's a flash crash, I'll it's not a brag. I just, which one should I back the truck up on? There's ones that will stand out compared to others. We know that. I did look at Stronghold because I haven't personally hit all my Stronghold goals. Hit my personal goals, but my long term goals. I didn't quite see the volatility on that, which is good for Stronghold. Don't get me wrong. Like, really, been doing an excellent job with it. You and I covered a lot myself. But what stood out was definitely Swiftcoin. So again, with China, we've had all this riff going on with the tariffs and you name it. Um, but again, what happens when there is an unbanning? Because you guys talk about Bitcoin, so unbanning of BTC and the alts again, I think Swift coin will get sent because we've already seen it happen twice when that happened temporarily. It's kind of, again, like we talked about open up the floodgates. That was just, and they apparently love the Bridgers, the app, because it's so easy, bridging
User
to,
friendly.
oh yeah, and it's 400 plus projects. So boom, that's just like, okay, what projects stand out for not onboarding, but offloading to BTC or altcoins? It's Bridgers. Literally, it's called Bridgers. So that just went like parabolic. So I was like, am I really going to wait for this to go to, I don't know, penny, 2 pennies, whatever, and then accumulate that? To me, that wasn't the magic recipe. The magic recipe is recognizing that one project stood out the most for being on sale. And like you point out, Rob, some of the best tokenomics out there,
Yeah.
I think it's like 100% in circulation. Again, the unofficial
Yep.
title of it, like basically the XRP of China. Some people say no, the XRP of China is CFX. That's incorrect. If you're going to label CFX conflicts, I would say the right terminology would be the Polygon of China. I think that's more accurate. Anyway.
I think that I made a video this afternoon talking about this a little bit to touch on what you're saying, Max, is that projects like Swiftcoin, there's so many people in crypto right now that have never actually been through a full cycle. And when I say that, you a lot of people have been through all the bad that's been happening over the last 2 or 3 years since 2022, right? But they haven't been through the good part of the cycle yet, and they're out there talking about what's going to happen, what's like being negative, right? Like, oh, there's not going to be an altcoin season, or like I get all the time. People ask me, "Hey, Rob, do you really think Swiftcoin can do what you think it's going to do?" Yeah, it went crazy back in January. My Swift bag was huge, but I was not going to be selling at such low prices because I know the potential for that project is going to be. So when we talk about projects with phenomenal tokenomics and utility like Swiftcoin, or I'm even going to throw in stuff like Miria, Moonwell, right? Zbeck, Nadix, all of these projects that we talk about, I understand that a lot of people have not seen the good side of what can happen with these projects yet. So it's hard for them to imagine, right? But that's why it's important to trust the process, be patient, wait it out, experience a full cycle, not just the bad, crappy, red, sideways, boring stuff, but the euphoric, upward trajectory, crazy, parabolic stuff as well. You have to have both sides of the coin. You can't just see the negative because you've only been through the negative and then assume you've got it all figured out. And there's no way that something like Swiftcoin could go to whatever, 8 cents, 10 cents, 20 cents, whatever the case might be, right? You
Can we have
don't
a
know.
conversation about this real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you too, Rue. So I was interviewed. It was like, oh my gosh, it was like almost 4 hours yesterday before we had our like team meeting thing. It was with the guy, Blockchain Bully. All right, not the Chicago guy. This is a different guy. He's from New York, and it was on TikTok. Great show. Feel very free to speak how I want to speak. My camera wasn't working at the time for my phone, so it was a nice like freestyle thing. Anyway, I pointed out that I truly believe that, especially when it came to the last bull market of 2021, at the height of that market, some people are asking about quant and some of these other assets. That was like what caused these to go to all-time highs. In reality, it was not utility on any of these projects at all, even now. So where I'm going with this is, like, so many projects, not just quant, many, saw all-time highs based off what? Catalyst, speculation. If you compare that market to where we're at now, basically speaking, it's like you don't see as much of catalyst or the buy the rumor or any of that dramatically causing things to go parabolic anymore. Like, really, there isn't. And so where I'm going with this is, when we talk about, again, these cycles you're talking about with Rob, like, some people feel as though, content creators that I saw one guy, he's like, the bull run is over. I think Ed Ofrino's a good guy, but he had a thumbnail. I didn't watch the video yet. But some people point out like the bull run is over. This is it. It's ending. Guess what? Just like you, Rob, I was there for the last 2021 bull market, and I heard that same narrative before Bitcoin went to 69K 11/11/2021. And I'm looking at like, well, where we're at now. We're at the end of October for 2025. So if it's like some people are doubting the whole thing with the alts. So again, would there still be a true cycle? Which I think the answer is yes with you, because you said that before. But more importantly, it's like, do you feel as though that the true utility cycle, which has never truly been here, right? Is that going to be, in your eyes, the next cycle? Like 4 years out? And is that going to be the true utility run then? Because in reality, this is the start of regulations, Clarity Act, Genius Act. Like, again, I want to get a little more of your thoughts about that, because it's kind of a divisive subject. And Rue, I also want to hear your thoughts on that too. For me, I just feel as though there's this in-between gray area, because once the utility cycle does truly happen, then to me it's clear as day that will disrupt the 4-year cycle, because it has to. Because that means new liquidity for the first time ever is being poured into the actual utility for a change, compared to BTC and Ethereum dominance, which is 82% of the overall market. I know it's a lot to what I just mentioned, but yeah, I want to get your take. Whoever wants to take it.
Go ahead, Rui. You
Well,
haven't said anything yet.
yeah, well, I think we get the institutional money, and we get it, especially when we get the Clarity Act. We get institutional money, and we get treasury money from huge companies. So I think that's months away, not definitely not 4 years away. In 4 years, who knows? Oh my God, it'd be like huge market, but it's months away. And once that money gets in there and it starts going pretty high, I think a lot of retail might even just sell their coins, and it just goes even higher. You know what I mean? Um, I think retail is probably going to dump way earlier than we should. And they're just going to keep building and building and building and building this thing till like 4 years from now. Like, who knows, like how far up XRP and things like this that are going to be the backbone of central banks in this new system. Like, who knows how lucrative those are going to be in 4 years. Like, maybe we get the 10K XRP in 4 years, but retail is going to probably sell way before then, right? Yeah, that's my thoughts. Like, I think we see this utility run in months.
Yeah, see, I'm of the mindset that I do think it's going to take a little bit longer, just because as a society, as people, nothing is instant gratification anymore, right? I mean, even just government doing things like government adoption, passing legislation. Look how long it takes just to pass a freaking bill, positive crypto bill, right? I mean, geez, for crying out loud, right? I mean, government's not even working right now. You know what I mean? So, in saying that's kind of what my perspective is. It's because things move slow as a society when it comes to this kind of stuff. Now they've sped up dramatically over this cycle, but I think that this cycle is a stepping stone going into the next one. Think of it maybe like a segue from a completely speculative asset class into a utility driven asset class. You need that kind of gray area. Instead of it just going from black to white, you have your previous cycle, the 2021 bull run, where it's just completely black, and then we go into this cycle where we're starting to merge into more of a gray area, where we're getting adoption in institutions, and then we get that next cycle where it's that full adoption utility kicking in, because you have to have a process of a segue, right? A process into it. It doesn't just go from no adoption to adoption like that, right? Society doesn't work that way, unfortunately. For certain specific projects, it will, but as a whole, for the asset class, you got your projects like your XRPs and your quants, for example, that, yeah, of course, right? Those are going to gain traction a lot faster than the entire asset class as a whole, just because of the need for it, right? I mean, the segue from the Swift archaic system to like XRP Ledger, for example, is got to be a little bit faster than most other adoption. But I have on the screen right now. I've used this a few times. Zcash as kind of a lesson, and I'm going to show a couple of projects here. Right, look at that accumulation phase, and this is the part that a lot of people. This is a learning moment for people who this is your first cycle. Okay, I really want you to be paying attention to this. Put your emotions aside, your lack of patience aside, and look at this screen right now. You have 1,200 days of accumulation. How many years is that's like 3 years, right? Was it 3? I don't even know. No, I don't. Anyway, it's like 3 years.
That's a
4 years.
crazy move on Zcash, by the way, Rob. I had no idea. That's crazy.
1,200 days. Imagine for people who've only been in crypto for a year, right? A year and a half. You're already impatient. Imagine being a Zcash investor who bought, I don't know, up here or something like that, and then it fell down, right? And then all of this accumulation for 1,200 days. But this is what happens. You have to understand. This is what happens in crypto, not just in crypto, but in stocks as well, in charts. You have your accumulation phases. There's no guarantee in how long that accumulation phase is going to last, but when it breaks, my goodness, does it break, right? We have Zcash, 1,200 days. Let's look at XCN, right? Because we accumulated XCN. Look at this accumulation phase. Like 9 months, 9 or 10 months, I think it was, of this. It was way up. Imagine buying XCN way up here, right? Look at that. Look, it came all the way down here. And for this process lasted what? 675 days, right? And I remember all through this accumulation phase on the Patreon, I was getting asked by people, especially in this little circle range right here. This is where it really started. People started messaging me, hey man, XCN's not doing anything, man. It hasn't done anything forever. Should I just sell my XCN and do something else? No, you don't sell a project when it's in an accumulation phase like this, no matter how painful it may feel, no matter how boring it might, no matter how many other projects you're seeing going on big runs while yours just does this, right? This is an accumulation phase. So when I'm on the channel or someone else is on their channel and they're saying it's a great day to DCA, this is what they're talking about. So when you sit there and you get pissed off because you're tired of hearing someone say every single day, DCA, 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 right? This is the reward for, like we saw on Zcash and we're seeing on Onyx Coin, right? That's the reward for your patience and your consistency and your research and your belief in the projects that you're investing in, right? But again, stuff like Swiftcoin, same thing. Stuff like Myria, same thing. Nadix. Let's go to Zbec real quick. I don't want to hold up this too long. Well, that's not Zbec here. Let me go to Zbec here. Okay. Same thing for Zbec. We did the same thing here. We accumulated this project. Look how long we accumulated Zbec for, right? This thing went sideways for 385 days before it finally started to do something and people started to take notice of it, right? So just because it doesn't happen when you want it to doesn't mean it's not ever going to happen.
Exactly, and I'm glad you're pointing this out because there's also phases of accumulation, like entry points for us as in ZPCN. This is an excellent example that Rob has shared with us, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to point something out that there's a lot of you guys, I just say a lot, there's some of you guys, I should restate that had ZBC before it became ZBCN. So if you were to go to the charts and pull up like on CMC, CoinGecko, et cetera, and just type in ZBCN, well, by definition, for that actual contract or token for ZBCN, all-time lows was roughly, I want to say, 3077, give or take, in that area. But for somebody that came in very early on that original rock bottom accumulation phase for ZBC, well, in reality, on that contract, you're at 301, 302. Imagine being the guy at 301, 302 who got emotional, just like what Rob was talking about. You set yourself up for a dramatic disaster. But shout out to the guys who realized I had to sit through this pain. So for one, they saw the next era of accumulation. They saw the next era of, for example, now it's, ZBCN, and there's still back of the truck up moments even with that. Something I want to share with you guys. Big shout out to our friend in the space, Mike C, who is Elon Muff. Rue and I are good friends with this guy. He sent this to me on a screenshot with his phone. This happened basically 2 weeks ago, okay, give or take. I think this is right before the flash crash, because we are talking about accumulation, crashes, and so on. This might be some of the most important things you ever seen or listened to. So a real treat for you guys. I highly encourage you guys to go to some of these sites that most people have not shared. It's app.rwa.xyz or just rwa.xyz. You can either go on with your phone, computer, you name it. Here's the things that people don't talk about. Global market view. Total real-world assets on-chain, at least at that time. Now look what it mentions here. A little over $7 trillion. Up about, my God, I mean, I can't even mention how big of a number this is. Let's see, 3, 6, 9. So literally like trillions up. And if you think about it, we're still so very early when it comes to this. So when we talk about the shift of basically like a utility wave, keep in mind there's things going on in the background that aren't even being posted on X. For example, the asset classes, whereas stablecoins, U.S. treasuries, government bonds, corporate bonds, private credit, commodities, institutional funds, stocks, and so on. The entire stock market before our very eyes is literally being tokenized, and some people still don't believe that this is a real thing. And I'm going to give you an example of this, because you can literally go to CMC and finally see that this is happening. Here's another example. It's Tesla. TSLA literally has what, everybody? It has a tokenized representation on CMC. And what's important for understanding this is because, again, even whether it's Robinhood, NASDAQ, and so on, you're having the entire market being tokenized and represented on chain. Who will capture the value of some of these things? What protocols would be used? Would it be interledger protocol with, for example, with Ripple, with XRP? Would it be some of these other ones, right? But whatever the case be, we can track all this. So if we're seeing the movement of institutional funds being represented on chain, and this is considered early, this changes the whole narrative of there's not enough money in the world and all these crazy narratives that this crazy market cap or overall market cap when it comes to crypto assets can't happen. I think this whole thing of a utility run obviously is inevitable. I do realize what Rob is mentioning. I also recognize what Rue has mentioned. But this is all definitely worth looking into, because if you see a project that you have done your research on and feel as though it has great long-term potential then what are you doing? Are you going to be that guy that just accumulates at that next leg up? I think Zebek is a great example. You know, there's a third wave now, if you will, of people accumulated at, what is it, 203, 204, which is fine if you believe in it super long term and where it's going to go. But shout out to all the people that really realize those particular levels of accumulation. Again, with ZBC, 001, 002, and especially when we had flash crashes and Zebek went to 0077, 8. And so I remember sending a text to Rue. I was like, geez, man, this was my back of the truck up moment. I was like, this is the time to get a bunch of Zebek. And I was so glad that I did so. But great examples, especially the Zcash that Rob shared, and obviously some of these other ones. But there's the numbers. Let that speak for itself. And interesting, that happened literally before the flash crash. So did they enter into the market with a big wave of what you see here for total RWA value, and then Binance does this thing to crash the market? Could very well be. I don't have all the answers on that, but I do find the data to be extremely interesting, to say the least. Rue, Rob, whoever wants to take it.
I just wanted to show something again here real quick on the ZBEC chart, just to kind of capitalize on that. This is ZBEC right now. This is exactly what we're talking about when Max is, shout out to people who can recognize an accumulation zone. So I'm just going to go ahead and point it out to you right now. If you don't realize that, is that ZBEC right now has been in an accumulation zone for about another 152 days, right? 150 days, give or take. It's in an accumulation zone right now. What do you think the next move is going to be eventually out of this accumulation zone based on the other charts I've already shown you about projects in accumulation zones? I'll tell you, that is what it's going to look like.
I was literally thinking that. Yeah, I was literally thinking that those dotted dashes, I was like, he's going to draw a straight line up, and that's exactly what you did. And you're right, because there's other charts that show exactly what you're talking about with that.
Yeah, it's going to go straight up to like 2 or 3 cents, 3.5 cents. And then you're going to have people up at 3.5 cents who were not buying down here, who were complaining about this because it was painful, who then up here around 3.5 cents, just like XCN did. Again, we go back to the Onyx coin chart. What happened? All that accumulation, boom, look where it shot up. What was the price in that accumulation? 2052. And where did XCN peak? 5 cents. 5 cents. It shot up from 2027, give or take, all the way up to 5 frickin' cents. In the course of what? Let's zoom in. How long did that move take even? Let's say 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm not going to count that way. Let's do this, right? It took about 12 days. So the point of this, for me, is to point out, guys, that accumulation zones suck, right? They suck, man. But maybe it just comes, with battle scars or whatever the case might be, right? Maybe you need to miss these opportunities a couple of times before it rings a bell in your head, because I've been trying to point this out forever, and I've used this analogy. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to give a bath to a feral cat, right?
I was just gonna say a cat.
And scratch and clawed, right? But I'm trying to do what's best for you here. And these, so you have to make your own decisions. All I can do is educate and entertain you at the end of the day, right? And when you see these accumulation zones like we're seeing on the likes of ZBEC right now, guys, I've shown you what comes next. Some of you are going to benefit from what comes next, and some of you are going to be asking me right about here if it's still a good time to buy ZBEC. That's just the way she goes. Right?
Speaking about Zebek, so they shared something that the Federal Reserve, an opening talk from them, right? So I want to play this. I played it on a show for you guys on my channel. Definitely check out my channel if you haven't already. But I really think that we should watch this one in the closing remarks. This one's only about 8 minutes, and the closing remarks are only about four. Let me just play these really quickly. Now, Zebek reposted this. So this is going to be like groundbreaking just to hear this, guys. And remember, this is from the Federal Reserve Board. This is a governor on the Federal Reserve Board. Okay.
There are many eligible firms engaged in substantial payments activities that may not want or need all the bells and whistles of a full-fledged master.
Well, let me start from the beginning.
Greenhorn.
Today, Federal Reserve. Okay, let me just there we go, and then let's start.
Good morning. All right. Well, thank you, Susan, and good morning to everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Federal Reserve Board for our first Payments Innovation Conference. My objective in creating this conference is twofold. First, I wanted to have a conference that focused on the new technologies that had come from the DeFi and crypto worlds and how they are entering into the mainstream payments ecosystem. My goal is to have a vibrant discussion about payments between traditional payment incumbents and the new entrants from the DeFi world. Second, I wanted to send a message that this is a new era for the Federal Reserve in payments. The DeFi industry is not viewed with suspicion or scorn. Rather, today, you are welcome to the conversation on the future of payments in the United States and on our home field, something that would have been unimaginable a few years ago. My view for the Fed from now on is embrace the disruption, don't avoid it. As you know, we are well into a technology-driven revolution in payments, and I'm here to say that the Federal Reserve intends to be an active part of that revolution. A number of technological advances are transforming the payment system. Stable coins and tokenized assets, making use of distributed ledger technology, the rapid adoption of artificial intelligence AI, and increasingly the convergence between these innovations and the traditional financial ecosystem. This includes the institutions and infrastructure that our economy has long depended on to operate a safe and efficient payment system. And yes, this also includes the Federal Reserve. The revolution in transforming payments is demanding change everywhere. And I will say more in a moment about some new ideas that the Federal Reserve is studying to support those innovations. I have spoken before of what I see as the two broad models of payments innovation in our market economy. The first is private sector-driven innovation. Most innovation comes from the private sector, which is motivated and best positioned to allocate resources and take risk with new technologies. The second model is when public sector entities, such as the Fed, build platforms and provide services that enable the private sector to more readily and rapidly expand new services to its customers. This should be done rarely and in limited circumstances where it addresses a specific market need. The posture of public institutions, including the Federal Reserve, should be to acknowledge and embrace private sector innovation that can improve the payment system while preserving its safety and stability, which are as essential to the new generation of innovators as they are to legacy institutions. Now let me pull back a moment and remind everyone how we got here. Since nearly its founding, the Federal Reserve System has worked to facilitate payment and settlement system efficiency alongside the private sector. From the beginning, the clearing services provided by the reserve banks obviated the need for daily movements of cash in armored cars with heavily armed guards. Long before we started speaking of the payment rails that are facilitating the kind of innovation we're discussing today, the Fed was running trains on steel rails to deliver and clear paper checks traveling across the country. FedWire began conducting interbank transfers through telegraph wires in the early 20th century. Fast forward today, where we have multiple infrastructures that settle interbank transfers in real time. Today's conference will focus on private sector-driven innovation. We have assembled 100 private sector innovators who are leveraging cutting-edge technology to create new possibilities in the payments landscape. Our panelists are engaging in integrating traditional financial payment rails with distributed ledgers, developing new products and services in the digital asset ecosystem, and leveraging AI in the payment system. It's worth noting that the firms engaged in these activities include banks, asset managers, retail payment firms, technology companies, as well as crypto-native fintechs. This is an acknowledgement that distributed ledgers and crypto assets are no longer on the fringes, but are increasingly woven into the fabric of the payment and financial system. Now, before we hear from these innovators, I would like to touch on roles that the Federal Reserve plays to support the private sector. These include serving as a convener to solve coordination problems and operating core payment and settlement infrastructure. We are also looking ahead, conducting hands-on research on tokenization, using smart contracts, and the intersection of AI and payments for use in our own payment systems. We do this to understand the innovation happening within the payment system, as well as to evaluate whether these technologies could provide opportunities to upgrade our own payment infrastructures and to enable us to have deeper conversations with the industry on these new technologies. While this is a good start, I believe we can and should do more to support those actively transforming the payment system. To that end, I have asked Federal Reserve staff to explore the idea of what I'm calling a payment account. Today, Federal Reserve banks provide access to master accounts and financial services to legally eligible entities following our guidelines for evaluating account and services requests. The payment account would be available to all institutions that are legally eligible for an account and would be beneficial for those focused primarily on payment innovations. This payment account concept would be targeted to provide basic Federal Reserve payment services to legally eligible institutions that right now conduct payment services primarily through a third-party bank that has a full-fledged master account.
See, you hear that?
There are many eligible firms engaged in substantial payments activities that may not want or need all the bells and whistles of a full-fledged master account, or access to the full suite of Federal Reserve financial services to successfully innovate and provide services to their customers. The idea is to tailor the services of these new accounts to the needs of these firms and risks they present to the Federal Reserve banks and the payment system. Accordingly, and importantly, these lower risk payment accounts would have a streamlined timeline for review. Payment innovation moves fast and the Federal Reserve needs to keep up. To be more concrete, let me describe a possible prototype that I've been considering for this type of payment account, or as I sometimes call it, a skinny master account. The account would provide access to the Federal Reserve payment rails while controlling for various risks to the Federal Reserve and the payment system. To control the size of the accounts and associated impacts on the Fed's balance sheet, the Reserve banks would not pay interest on balances in a payment account, and balance caps may be imposed. These accounts would not have daylight overdraft privileges. If the balance in the account hits zero, payments will be rejected. They would not be eligible for discount window borrowing or have access to all Federal Reserve payment services for which the Reserve banks cannot control the risk of daylight overdrafts. Now, I want to be clear that this is just a prototype idea to provide some clarity on how things could change. The upshot is that, in my view, the payments landscape, as well as the types of providers, has evolved dramatically in recent years, and accordingly, a new payments account would better reflect this new reality. As Federal Reserve staff examine this idea, we will engage with all interested stakeholders to hear their perspectives on the benefits and drawbacks to this approach. So you will be hearing more about this shortly. So let me wrap up here so we can get to the really exciting part of the conference, not me blabbering, which is about innovation in the future of payments. So thank you to the panelists who took the time to participate, those in the audience who agreed to be here, and the many others watching online. And a special thanks to Fed staff who moved incredibly fast to pull this event together and fit it into a very busy fall schedule for the Fed. So on with the conference, and thank you for being here.
So huge. This Skinny Master account is kind of everything that we've been talking about with XRP, with Stronghold, with Zebek, and that it kind of eliminates the third party banks that people normally use, and it allows them to kind of do the direct, sender to receiver, and only to the guys that have the Skinny Masters they can do that. So this makes me like really, really bullish for Zebek. The fact that Zebek retweeted it really speaks bounds. Like, never would this have been possible in the Biden administration for something like the Federal Reserve to do something like this. This is absolutely like monumental.
Oh yeah, Gare Bear would have stepped in and said, it's a security. There's no way. Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Again, with Zebek, I keep saying it, man. It's like buying XRP back in 2017, in my opinion. People have no idea.
And the emphasis on like distributed ledger technology, payment systems, fintechs, it's almost like they're calling out Zebek and Stronghold, specifically. This matches everything like Tammy Campus said in the past too, like up to 4 years ago, even though he said, oh, this is a prototype. Tammy Camp and others have talked about this up like 4 years ago. So like, it seems to me like this is, part of the plan. And, I can't wait to see it come to total fruition. But like, this is groundbreaking to hear someone from the Federal Reserve say this. Like, I'd like to show his closing remarks too, which aren't quite as long. It's only 4 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just going to make a comment there real quick. Is
Please.
that people are going to my kids when they are, I don't know, when my youngest is in his 20s, right? He's going to laugh at the fact that his dad used to get paid hourly. Like, you used to get paid hourly, right? The same way people today look at streaming. I mean, for crying out loud, I watch wrestling on Netflix now live. They stream it on Netflix, right? Whereas before, when I was a teenager, I would have to make sure I was home Monday Night Raw in front of the TV, 9 p.m. Eastern when I was out east, right? I had to be there to watch it, or guess what? I missed it, right? Streamed live now. People today look back and they laugh. You actually had to be there when the show was aired on television, or you were going to miss it. It's the same concept when it comes to payroll. People are going to look back and say, you actually got paid every 2 weeks? How did you live?
Yep.
That's what they're going to say.
Like saying, like looking at music, we were explaining A-tracks to a Gen Z. He was like, "Wait, what?"
A-tracks
You
are
didn't
actually
stream
pretty,
it?
pretty awesome. They're very convenient. You just get to the song like boom, 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 done. I'm not fidgeting with my phone. I'm not fidgeting with the screen. It's just boom, boom, boom. Can I share something real quick to complement what Rue was talking about?
Please.
All right, this is something that Rue and I always agree on. We like it as researchers to have another person complement and pound home the material. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share why Rue Black, if you didn't know already, is one of the most awesome researchers there are out there. Like the best in the business. Here's why.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so number one, Rue, did you not just mention or share with this guy from the Federal Reserve? He mentioned like a master account, right?
Yep.
What's that effect, right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes,
watch
sir.
this,
Yes,
guys.
sir.
Listen, I'm telling you, drop what you're doing for a moment. Like, there might be a lot of other stuff just went over your head. You got to listen to this, okay? Listen to this. So, for one, I'm gonna share a few key things there. This is so cool. I share this, of course, in a deep dive, and if anything, it still matters. So in that interview, you heard the term Fed Master Account. Shout out to our brother in space, Smoke. Follow him at SMQKDQG. He says the Federal Reserve's David Adolfato confirmed that clearing and settlement at the Fed can be delegated to a third party like Ripple. This is key. This explains Ripple's pursuit of a Fed master account. Yeah, bullseye. To directly settle central bank money using XRP. Let's watch and listen to this a minute and a half. I'm telling you, listen to this. Clip it if you want to. Share it if you want to. Because for Zebek to have these connections to Ripple and some of these other ones, your strongholds with Ripple and also Stellar, speaks volumes. Listen to this. We'll be back in a minute and a half. Here we go.
That is, people say, how can you trust, the Fed to do the bookkeeping? I mean, like I said, my response is, well, you don't expect the Fed to kind of steal your money. I mean, if the Fed can print all the money at once, it's not going to like mess around with your bookkeeping. So, we have this big spreadsheet, the blockchain if you want, but it's just managed by the Fed, and it's very cheap, much cheaper than Bitcoin, if you're willing to delegate the responsibility to a third party. But then the downsides to all of that, of course, is you'd actually suppose you didn't want the Fed to be responsible for processing the payments. I mean, suppose, the Fed will likely impose some KYC restrictions on some purchases. They might not process some purchases that you might want to undertake. And so it was at that point that I said, well, we could, if we wanted to, extend the concept one step further. I'm not saying that this is ever going to happen, but just conceptually, you could imagine not FedWire for all, but kind of like a Fed coin, where what the Fed would do is actually just issue these, Bitcoin-like objects, but and they would enforce a par exchange rate with the U.S. dollar. That would eliminate the exchange rate volatility. But they could delegate the clearing of these payments to some third party, some sort of Ripple-like protocol, or possibly even Bitcoin. I mean, we could delegate the responsibility of processing these electronic, Fedcoin payments to the miners. And the idea there would be, because
Got him.
Exactly. So we did hear him slip up a little bit there. For one, he mentions Fedcoin. Fedcoin? Did you just literally label Ripple as a Fed coin? That's interesting. Did we miss that part? Number two, it pounds home everything that the brother Rue mentioned and shared in that clipping about that Fed master account, right? That adds up. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this gets it gets better. Rob, I need you to share this on the screen again, please. Let's jump back over to this. Let's take you over to here real quick. Gilbert Verdian. Maximus Crypto always has to share Gilbert Verdian Quant. Oh, I know where he's going with this. No, you don't. But that's okay. We love you anyway. If you go to gilbertverdian.com/CV, here's Gilbert Verdian's robust history. Okay? Work history. And as I would always point out, boil it, mash it, stick it in a stew. Because what? It shares the detailed information that what's going on in Europe. European Union Blockchain Observatory, May 2018 to present. And does he have any Fed connection? Oh, Quant's just Europe. They don't have no connection to the United States of America. Max doesn't know what he's talking about. Bullcrap. Federal Reserve, Fed Payments Improvement Community, Gilbert Verdian of the Quant Network, April 2018 to present. And oh, by the way, also part of the Federal Reserve Secure Payments Task Force from March 2017 to 2018. And oh, by the way, ISO TC307 Blockchain Distributed Ledger Technologies 2017 to present. And if you were to go over to the Quant Network site as we speak, what does it share or show you on the front page? It says they are the standard for building on blockchain. They are the standard for digital finance. They are the standard for programmable money. Now, at the very, very beginning, we talked about stocks, did we not? Well, Overledger. What do you want to automate with the Overledger? Oh, I don't know. Maybe the entire freaking stock market. NASDAQ data.
Max.
Link. Time series. Table data. My God.
Boil it, mash it, stick it in the stew,
Stick
bro.
that sucker in the stew. Because you want to know something? This is why I worked with Rue for a few years now, dating back to 2022, brother. Because you want to know something? We go a little bit deeper when it comes to this stuff. And we were very honored to bring it to all three communities with the brother Rob, whose wife is probably like, dude, you gonna come down and eat this spaghetti or whatever? I need to get going. But anyway, when I saw Rue share that whole thing, ladies and gentlemen, about the quote, just in case you missed it, let's just jump back for a second. This right here about Fed master account, that added up. Oh, there's one more connector. Let's not forget this. All right. I love Smoke. He's the man.
Smoke dog.
XDC Byzantine Agreement Protocol, Federal Reserve approved. Some people don't think that XDC even has connection to this stuff. And look what it says. This is so cool. It says specifically, hopefully the tab's up. Let me double check. It is. It says that we have mandatory information on principal adverse impacts on the climate and other environment related adverse impacts of the consensus mechanism. And it shows, again, boil it, mash it, stick in this too. XDC network, Byzantine fault tolerant. You made me think, well, it's just XDC, Max. That's all we have. And this is years ago. You just cite stuff from 10 years ago. Shame on you, Maximus Crypto, with your Filipino ice cube hat. No, 2/18/2025. It was this year. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Why you had to highlight stuff for me, Max? Because that's what I do. That's what Smoke does too. Now watch this. Here's the final connectors. Let's jump to it real quick. Just real quick, please. We see here, I share this in the video. Boom. Federal Reserve research had already validated Byzantine fault-tolerant systems, confirming XRP, XLM, and HBAR's role in secure payments. Okay? Again, secure payments. But who, everybody, was part of this task force? Gilbert Verdian. And still part of the improvement community, 2018 to present. Do not dismiss the quant connection on that. Jumping back to this just for a brief moment. I know I sound really psyched because I am. Because, I mean, why wouldn't I be? You see here that this specifically was the whole idea of a consensus model, basically a framework, acknowledgement marked a major endorsement since BFT mechanisms, particularly Byzantine agreement-based models, offer the highest level of security and scalability for distributed networks. XRP, XLM, HBAR were already utilizing variations of BFT, confirmed in the reference documentation, and just jumping down into it. You know, you may think, oh, he's just typing in words. He doesn't have no receipts. Check this out. Here's a receipt right here. Fed researchers unveil more secure payment system model. Byzantine fault tolerant systems can process 110,000 transactions per second. And for people who are like, oh, Ripple doesn't scale, Stellar doesn't scale, and all this nonsense. If you have a direct partnership with the Bank for International Settlements, look it up. I've done some deep dives. Shout out to the late great Will Fix. We did some deep dives. It points out specifically there's this thing called the M10, and it does 1 million plus TPS. So hold my beer on that one, because that's amazing. We jump to the next page of this. What else do we have? Literally cited from the Federal Reserve. Okay? I'm telling you guys, you got to pay attention to this stuff. FederalReserve.gov. What do we have here? Finance and Economics Discussion Series, Federal Reserve Board, Washington, D.C., a Byzantine fault tolerance database system with potential for modern payment systems. So back to Rue Black with that clipping. That pounds home the evidence. Does it mention 2025? It does. And it gets better and better because, think about this for a second. Let's jump to the next page. What does it mention right here? Federated Byzantine Agreement, Ripple and Stellar. Yes, Ripple and Stellar by name for a federated voting process that is variant of the Byzantine fault tolerance consensus model. And last but not least, the final connector, it's the gravy. We already boiled it, mashed it, stuck it in stew. Let's put some gravy on it. With the gravy train, if you want to call it that, blockchain versus hashgraph. As we know, Hedera with HBAR, with the hashgraph consensus protocol. It's not even a blockchain. It's a DLT, right? It's the gossip protocol as outlined by Dr. Lehman Baird, who's on my Mount Rushmore of the most interesting people in blockchain and DLT. Point out here, Byzantine fault tolerant is the highest level security for distributed networks, and cited by Hedera. And remember earlier, the guy from the Federal Reserve talked about the third-party applications. Boom. Healthcare, real estate, financial, media, social causes, communications, gaming, legal, logistics, permission DLT, cryptocurrency, consensus service. Boil it, mash it, stick it in stew, and we out.
Boom. No one
drop.
goes deeper. Pause.
This is why I love working with you guys, because we see one thing and say, oh, I remember that. Oh, this came out recently. Rue just showed you a brand new thing on October 21st, and we just confirmed it all right there. This is why you connect to these Patreons. This is why you go the distance. Share this with people that need to know about this stuff, because there's one narrative of people that are saying, oh, it's just a coin. It's just a token. Do you really, truly understand about capturing the value of an internet? Think about that. The technology has never really technically existed until recently. You know, we talk about the IMF, International Monetary Fund. We talk about the special drawing rights, the ESDR. They tested this out in the late 1960s. And guess what? They didn't have the technology, but they have it now. This is why I feel Ripple is the ESDR with XRP. But now you see all this, and now you see this thing on October 21st. It's massive. It's absolutely massive. So there you guys have it. Glad to bring it to you guys. Rue doing it big, and Rob sitting back in the cut like, all right, well, I think they're almost done, and we can have our spaghetti together soon. So, you know, it is what it is. But I love being with these two gentlemen. These guys rock. I mean, these guys are my brothers, and great to do it, man. I'm still psyched on it, man, because it just pounds home everything. Like if you don't have a bag of some of this stuff, I really politely will say, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, come on now. Like, what are you really doing? Do you believe in generational wealth? Do you believe that utility will be used? Or back to the beginning of the outline of the show, you just believe that this next cycle is just a speculative cycle, and it's just about positive catalysts, because a utility run is imminent. And you just heard FedCoin. Like, he literally slipped FedCoin. Holy cow. Like, why wasn't that mentioned? FedCoin.
Yeah, if you don't hold any of this, I thought you were here to make money.
Right? I'm loving the enthusiasm, bro. I'm loving it. Rob got me hyped up living as is backstage, and then you just got me hyped up right here, bro. It's quite the night. If you guys don't mind, if we can hit the last one, because it's just as hype as the other one. Not quite as hype.
No,
He doesn't
I
mention
welcome it, bro. I mean, and knowing that, guys, appreciate the dates on this. This is all recent, October 21st. Go verify it for yourself. Do your own due diligence.
And just to show you guys right quick here, let me share this tab to show you that Zabak, they retweeted this. So they, like, think about them retweeting this, and they kind of mention them as in, like, okay, well, fintechs and distributed ledger technology and payments. It's right up their alley. So this is where I got it from, just so you guys know and can verify. We always like to bring the receipts here, of course. Now let's finish up with his closing remarks here, which are not quite as long, only 4 minutes here. Let's play.
And let me begin to end things by thanking all the panelists and also those of you in the audience who engaged with some great discussion. I'm always struck by the fact, I've said this to a few people over the last day or so, every time I think I have an understanding of what's going on, I go to these things and I realize how little I know. So I have to keep going, so I keep learning and learning and learning. So sitting in the audience today reminds me of how important it is to listen and learn from innovators on the ground, both newer entrants and incumbents alike. Today allowed us not only to focus on what is happening in the payment system, but also envision where it might go next, as we were talking a bit at the end. I jotted down some notes about what I've heard today, and I'll wrap things up by highlighting some of the really interesting points made and ask a few questions. It's clear from our discussions that innovation in payments is coming in many forms. What I heard from our panelists from discussions during the breaks is that the industry is moving as quickly as possible on a number of fronts, from finding ways to interoperate across and between traditional and new ecosystems, to reimagining the consumer purchase experience through the use of AI and AI agentic agents. All of this points to a future where payments move more rapidly, securely, and seamlessly across networks, both domestic and global. I also heard from many panelists about the growing importance of tokenized money in unlocking the next phase of payments innovation. We heard from a variety of panelists about evolving roles that could be played by stablecoins and commercial bank deposit tokens, and the potential efficiency and inclusivity gains these forms of tokenized dollars might deliver. And we ultimately heard a lot of discussion about very classic economics of payments issue. That's at the deep depth of my heart. Beyond technology, what stood out today was a spirit of collaboration across the ecosystem. I've noticed this over the last couple of years. Instead of, dude, we're going to take your job and drive you out of business, which was kind of the crypto world about 6, 7, 8 years ago, it's all like, how do we work together? I mean, this is a profound cultural change in the way people think about these things.
Yes, indeed.
We heard bankers and developers speaking the same language about openness, interoperability, and the need for shared standards. And we may have even coined a new term in scaled-fi. Things are changing fast in the world of payments, and it will be interesting to see a year from now how much has changed, or perhaps become more defined about the innovations we discussed today. It remains to be seen just how quickly some of the innovations being discussed now will be widely used or leveraged in the marketplace in the coming years. Now, how quickly might we reach that point, as discussed today, in which most consumers interact with tokenized money in their daily lives, unaware of the new technologies at play? I mean, that was kind of a theme. Consumers don't care about the technology underlying things. They just want to know, can I use my money to pay for something? Am I going to get money from somebody? They don't care how it gets done. We care about how it gets done, right? We do, to make sure it's done efficiently, cheaply, and safely for those consumers. What will the blockchain infrastructure rails look like, and how many different stablecoins might circulate on these rails? I mean, I think this is a big question. There's a lot of talk about lots of stablecoins, but at the end of the day, consumers have to choose which of these things they want to use. It may be very widespread. There may be just a handful that actually used, and the rest are just a tail. That's what we're going to find out by letting it loose and seeing what the consumers want to do. And which future innovations that are unforeseen today will challenge our assumptions and understanding what is possible in payments in the future. So thank you all for making this conference such an informative and enriching experience for me, and I believe all my colleagues here at the board. Thank you to those watching online, and a big thank you to the Fed staff who did such a spectacular job pulling this event together in a very short period of time. And with that, thank you and goodbye.
Stablecoins, rapid payment, basically encapsulating things so the user doesn't even know the blockchain is underneath. We know Zabek is doing that with Turnkey, their Turnkey solution, which, by the way, Flare also uses them. It's lining up very nicely for Zabek and XRP related things. Like it's just so obvious.
Yeah, like I said, if you're not holding these things, I thought you were here to make money. I've made my stance on stuff like ZBEC, and XRP very, very clear. Like for me, ZBEC, for example, I'm putting aside a bag of anywhere between 3 to 5 million because it's not going to break the bank. and I'm just going to hold it until 2029 because I held XRP from 2017. I took profits finally last December when it was like $3.20 or something like that, right? So, I mean, I feel like the risk to reward, especially when you dive into these things and see what's going on, the adoption of them, the work that they're putting in on a global scale, not just by some company somewhere who's going to use Zebek's payroll system or something like that. We're talking about governments and stuff like that, world governments, right? This is such a big scale. And you're going to have your haves and your have-nots 10, 15 years from now, like people look back at the big boom in the stock market in the end of the 90s, right? And you say, why the hell wasn't I holding Microsoft or Amazon or whatever the case might be, right? You're going to have your haves and your have-nots 15 years from now or looking back saying, why the hell didn't I buy some Zebek? Why didn't I hold some Quant? Why didn't I hold some XRP? What the hell was I thinking? Like, do I even remember what I did with that $500 15 years ago? Like, you know?
People don't realize we are the future new 1%. You know, that reference to the 1%. We are the future 1%. We are not going to be the have-nots. We are going to be the haves. You know, we talk about shift. We're part of that shift. And that's a once in a generation or lifetime moment. Fourth industrial revolution, these disruptors, we didn't have time to talk about it tonight, but like you guys will see, in my opinion, one of the most important Jasmy updates in recent time. There's a major update in regards to DFFT. Be out and look out for that on the public channel on my end on Maximus Crypto. It will air at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, and it is so important. It's so important. I'm pounding home why Jasmy, in my opinion, is ranked number 3 for highest potential of my portfolio. Yes, I talk a lot about XRP, QNT, and XLM is number 2. Jasmy is at number 3, and I wouldn't put it there for no reason. Owe it to yourself. Take the time to tune in for that. I bring all receipts on that, and some recent new developments about data free flow with trust, DFFT. So just throwing that out there.
And make sure you catch the Jasmy mini documentary series that I will be putting together. You're not broke. Amazing. You're pre-rich.
Yeah,
Rob, we all really look forward to that. I mean, that is really something, man. You going above and beyond with that, brother.
Well, I'm hoping that it is successful as I think it's going to be, because the plan is to reach out to probably Zebek next and try to do a mini documentary series doing the same thing. They're over in, I believe, Silicon Valley, south of Seattle, I think. So the plan is to do Zebek next and make another mini documentary series about them.
Nice.
So we'll see. I will follow these bastards anywhere to get I will get that information. All right, guys, that wraps up. I know I can hear Rule's stomach rumbling through his microphone from here. We're always delaying him and making food get cold every week. Right?
It's all good, guys. It's actually the truth.
Yeah, it's actually true. They abused me. All right, guys. I will see you guys next week. Well, we'll talk long before then, but yeah. Thanks again, guys. As always, I think it was a good one. I think what we should start to do, guys, is the week after we film these exclusively for the Patreon community, maybe we release them publicly a week later so people get the information later over on YouTube.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Well, I think Rue is going to boil it, mash it, and stick it in a stew right now because he's starving. So,
yes, indeed.
I'll mention something to you guys backstage for just a quick minute, and then we'll go. Anyway, see you guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace out, guys.
Peace.